Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday in the Riv. And, looks like things are beginning to pop. Election time is beginning to get here. We're starting to see signs popped up for candidates. They're not they're not a lot right now, but they are there. So don't be surprised. But I guess I got to talk about. I got a text. I don't know if you got one about this, CJ. Another our great economic development engine, which is only about market rate housing, but we know that we just got statistics about who got increases in their job to a degree, and Fall River wasn't in it. We weren't mentioned, and also on the best places to live in Massachusetts, we were not in that list. But Pacheco's Furniture, which occupies 9,000 square feet of space at 250.
They're in downtown Fall River.
Yeah, 255 South Main Street. It's going out of business, unfortunately. Yep. Another business down the toilet, and then we have these 7 Massachusetts cities are on the list of the 20 best small cities in the United States, and it's we have some Massachusetts communities here, and let's see what they are. Lexington, Melrose, Needham, Milton, Arlington, and of course, Newton.
Yep.
But we did make a few of the lists high up on the list, like crime. So and lack of educational performance. We did make those lists. So
well, I found it interesting that Deb Pillsbury on Facebook today turned around and said, and I believe she was being facetious. Well, Fall River has the lowest rents in the state. She may be accurate,
which is a lie.
Still high.
Yeah. Well, they're not the lowest in it. They may be close, but the reality is that, listen, true story, to show you how bad it's getting. I went to a meeting on Monday night of a group. And on the way back from the meeting, I drove through McDonald's on President Avenue and to grab a quick something. It was a Big Mac, in case anybody really is interested. So, and I ordered it. And when I got to the payment window, young kid working there, opened the windows. How you doing today? I said, I'm doing fine. How are you doing? He said, I'm at the end of a 10-hour shift. He says, I'll be glad to get home. So I said, I understand you're working extra hours. He said, it's hard now, but you'll like it when your paycheck comes. So he said, yeah, you're right. He said, but I got to work extra hours. He said, my rent just went up to $1,925 a month. So we hear that all the time. We see Facebook posts and stuff. But I actually engaged somebody, and the kid just volunteered that information to me. He said, my rent just went up to $1,925. I mean, my Lord. I mean, just think of that, $2,000 a month. So basically, all right, it's $75 short. So all right, but that's nearly 24. Well, it's going to be 23,000 and change, but almost $24,000 a year. Now, I don't know if he was single. I don't know if he was married. But if he was single, the per capita income in Fall River is $28,565. I think that the last three may be a little off, but it's $28,000. $24,000 for rent. You got $4,000 for the rest of the year to pay your gas, your electric, put gas in your car, get your car payment. It's an impossibility. And the reality is that Ahmed doesn't care. He actually said, and we have the soundbite, that high rents will be good in the long term. Yeah, be good in the long term for your plan, which is to eliminate all of Fall River residents and replace them with people from Newton. Well, guess what? We're not going to get a lot of people from Newton or Wellesley, even though you ran into one on the pickleball court. They must have got thrown out of Wellesley. I don't know. But Newton is one of the best cities in the country to live in. Low crime, great educational system. But you're not going to replace the people of Fall River with yuppies. You're not going to gentrify Fall River because Fall River has a niche that it and New Bedford and Lowell and Lawrence serve. There have to be communities that are blue collar. We all can't be Newton. We can be a good community. We can have safe streets. We can have a good educational system and not be rich, just have jobs. And that's what Fall River was. It was a working city at one time with the mills, and every store was filled. And South Main Street, Pleasant Street, they were all filled. And now it's a veritable ghost town. Another business going out. Why? Because you don't care. Everybody wants to be Newton. Well, you can't. Reality is there are many, many cities like that, and they've gone the way of Fall River. You know, Gary, Indiana, steel mills, Pittsburgh. These are blue-collar cities. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're doing an honest day's work for an honest day's wage. You deserve some respect. But they have a different agenda. And that agenda, we do not fit into that agenda. The average people of Fall River do not fit in that agenda.
Well, it's very interesting that you should bring this up because I just read in the Boston Business Journal that in Boston, they're having a problem filling storefront and office space in downtown Boston. And they expect Fall River to, fill it up and make it wonderful. If Boston's having a problem, how do they think Fall River's going to do it? This is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And, people need to understand the days of Fall River where we had the Christmas decorations going from Cherry and Webb and across the street and, the big tree on the Cherry and Webb building and all of that's gone. All of that's long since gone because you had mayors and city councils which sold the soul of Fall River away for a cheap buck. I'd like to use another word, but I can't. But it's amazing on how it goes, and people say, why isn't Fall River better? Well, because you voted in idiots. And while we're talking about voting in idiots, I have the listing of order how they appear on the ballot for the primary, and there's only a mayoral and a city council primary. One person needs to be eliminated from the mayoral side, and one person needs to be eliminated from the city council side. On the mayoral side, first on the ballot will be C. Samuel Sutter. Second will be Paul Coogan. Third will be Michael Vandell. On the city council side, this is the order. Alexander Silva, Gloria Sadler, Joseph Joe Camara, Sean Kadim, Andrew Raposo, Pamela Liberté, Gabe Real Boomer Amaral, Joshua Teixeira, Ricky Teeth, Paul Hart, Linda Pereira, Cliff Ponte, Joseph Salvador, Laura Jean Washington, Jordan James Silva, Paulo Amaral, Michelle Dion, Bob Pearson, and Brad Kilby. I don't like seeing Michelle down at the bottom of the list, but that doesn't mean she's not going to make the cut. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this turns out. I understand why the Charter Commission came up with this idea of listing everybody, by lottery to go on the ballot, and they say it seems to be fair, but I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Um, it is what it is.
Well, let me. I know that there was quite a debate on that, and our our representative of the people on that charter review board or whatever they're called, Dan Robillard again encapsulated the issue because according to reports, Laura Washington was saying how it was so difficult with a name that starts with W. It is a negative because to be at the bottom of the ballot. Well, frankly, I think that's an elitist saying that people can't read in Fall River or don't know who they're going to vote for. They're just going to check the first 9. And Dan Robillard in the debate, I think, pointed out to her that Bill Whitty, his name started with a W, and he topped numerous tickets for city council and was the president of the city council numerous times. Kathy Ann Viveris with a V. That's pretty low in the alphabet, pretty down there in the alphabet. She topped a few tickets. People vote for the people they want to vote for. They don't make check marks. That is so condescending and elitist to think that. But that's what you have when you have politicians framing a charter. This has never been and never will be the people's charter. This charter was drawn up by politicians to protect politicians, just like 300 signatures for mayor, 150 signatures for city council and school committee, and they actually said it, that we don't want people who can't get this amount. They don't deserve to be in the election fundamentally. And that is just so elitist. It's incredible. Why? You got a guy working 2 jobs trying to pay his rent that might want to get on the city council to try to control spending. He can't run around. It's hard to get 150 signatures. Oh, yeah, it's easy. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. You got to work. You got to go out there. And a lot of people don't want to sign. They're afraid, if I put my name on him, some politician will see my name on their paper. I've always said it, and I actually said it at that one of their meetings. I went down there and I talked about that. I said, as far as I'm concerned, our Constitution gives everybody the right to participate in government, and it also gives them the right to be part of that government. And I think anybody should be able to run for office with one signature, their own, and let the public decide, because that's what the Constitution says. We decide who our representatives are, not them. But they want to eliminate a class of people. Oh, you are not worthy. If you can't get 150 signatures, you are not worthy. Well, how do you know? Maybe one of these unworthy people may have one of the most brilliant ideas we've ever heard as part of their campaign. But we'll never know, will we? Because you have to meet their criteria. You can't live in Fall River anymore if you can't afford almost Boston rents, almost Newton rents, in spite of the fact that you're making less than half of what they make in those communities. But you can get charged almost the same amount of rent, because that's what they're telling you in code. We don't want you here. We know you can't afford it. Beat it. And they've said it before on other issues. We heard at the city council, like it, move. Like it, move to Russia. You live in public housing, shut up. You're not worthy of speaking on this issue because you live in public housing. Oh, you don't own a house? You're not worthy But that's not the way this government was structured. Everybody was supposed to be worthy of having a voice and having a vote. Doesn't mean you're going to win, but you do have a right to run, and you do have a right to give your opinion, whether they like it or not. So that charter was, is, and always will be a total disaster. And I am so glad that Joe Camara put Danny on that committee, because he is the voice of reality and reason on that committee. Because he's the one that was on the original committee, understands, filed a minority report on that charter, was not in favor of it, voted against it. And even today, he brings some sanity to the debate, because he was right when he said, hey, Bill Woody topped the ticket. He was at the bottom. And, so it is what it is. But that's the way it is. We have two separate classes in this city: the connected, the unconnected, the haves and the have-nots.
What's interesting is that you have arguments on both sides that sound reasonable, but when you think about them, like this question about Bill Whitty and Kathy Viveris topping the ballot, being at the bottom of the ballot but topping the vote, you got to say, are the people of Fall River so stupid that they just get the ballot and go for the top 9 and walk away? I don't think so. Like you, I believe that people are going to vote for the people they want to vote for. For instance, for me, and I think you said the same thing for yourself, I'm not voting for any incumbents except for Michelle Dion. And that's a sad state of affairs, but I don't believe that any of them have represented me. And the one person that I thought might be some new blood for the council has been corrupted numerous times over because he doesn't know the facts. He doesn't do the studies. And, he should know better because he's a teacher. He's a principal of a school. But, hey, who am I? I don't know anything.
Well, look, we continue to say it. Campaign season is here. Signs are going up. We're going to have a lot of debate, or maybe no debates, actually. I mean, I'm saying debate in a meaning a dialogue, because I don't know if they're gonna have many debates, if any. I know Paul was not really amenable to having a lot of debates, and when he did have a debate, they were extremely short in duration, and they were always in favorable venues. So I'm not sure, but it's up to the people. CJ, we always say from our first show on, follow the money and do your homework. So again, I'm not going to blame the politicians for trying to con the public. It's up to the public to educate themselves. It's up to the public to do their homework. Listen to what we have to say, fact check it. Listen to what other people say. I mean, if they're talking about something substantive, if they're just regurgitating their opinion about somebody else's opinion, like some people do, they just spend all their time talking about how we're always wrong and never having an alternate view or a point. So it is what it is. But we can't, if you don't do your homework, then you're going to be subject to their propaganda. Don't listen to the propaganda, no matter who it's coming from. Do your homework. When we read these stats about the cities, we didn't make up this list. We didn't make up the list. And when we reach crime stats, we don't make up those. When we give you incomes and poverty levels, they're from the United States Census Bureau. We don't sit there and make up stuff. If it's our opinion, we'll tell you it's our opinion. If it's an allegation, we'll tell you it's an allegation. But if we say we're 335th, we'll cite the source. That's the thing. Do your homework. You don't believe us? Go to that source and see if we made it up. But it's up to the people. This is why they've intentionally dumbed down the entire society. They don't teach civics anymore. They don't teach geography. I mean, some people don't know where some of the states are closer to California or to New England or the East Coast. Half of the college students can barely name the capital of their own state or who fought in World War II. They feed them a constant diet of TikTok, pablum, and things for them to play games with. But that's why we're in the mess we're in. You've got to vote, and you've got to vote intelligently. A wise man once told me, one of my college professors once said to me, and I truly believe it, and I see it being demonstrated even more as every year goes by. He said, America's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness. He said, our greatest strength is that every person can vote and be part of forming their government. Every American citizen of age, basically, except maybe felons in some states, but can vote and shape their government. But he said that's also our greatest weakness. He said, because if you go out and do your due diligence and research the platforms of all the candidates and look objectively at the government and how it's performing, and you cast an intelligent vote, you will be canceled out by somebody who just went there and made a check mark because of some advertisement or marketing gimmick. Or in the case of Fall River, in the old days, you got a chow mein sandwich. And unfortunately, that's a reality. Now it'll be, you went down to one of the summer events. You know, this is Lollapalooza summer. We got nonstop events because it's an election year. That's why I said we should have elections every year. You know, we get our taxes deferred for a while. We get all kinds of freebies down here, you know, down in the summer. But it is what it is. We are the masters of our own destiny, the captains of our own ship. It is up to us to get the people of Fall River who have been complaining about the rents, complaining about the crime, complaining about the cover-ups, complaining about the school system. Stop complaining and go out and use the power that you have and vote.
Well, I will say one thing. We have seen already in various, I think it was Bay Street, President Avenue, political signs, which I think went up on the day that they were able to go up, but I'm not sure if they went up earlier than that. But again, Paul, you know, abides by the law, so he probably did it. It probably did it on the day that it was appropriate. But I don't see a lot of other signs out there. You know, I've seen posts from politicians saying, if you want one of my signs, message me or call me and I'll deliver one to you. And Signs don't elect people. Signs maybe bring your message a little bit to the people that you're running, but it doesn't say what you stand for. It doesn't give you a platform. It doesn't give what you plan to do for the people of Fall River, for the taxpayer. And that's what we need. We need to have vital and valid discussions about what each candidate plans to do. And with only a few weeks to go before the primary election, I think it's about time that we start looking at who wants to come on the show and put their feet to the fire. It'll be
No,
interesting.
absolutely. Absolutely. And all are welcome. We will give them the time. And as you know now, we are on our own time clock now. We can take as long as we want to introduce, and we will be having shows not with politicians, but with people from the general public who have information they want to bring to the people about numbers and about misappropriations of monies and things like this. So yeah, you're right. And we will do that. We will bring the information. But you're right. You're right. Signs do not elect people. And I'm having a conversation now about position papers, and someone says he doesn't think they're that important. I said they are. They're critical because you need to put in writing what your positions are and let people talk about them. And he said, oh, well, maybe not that many people read it on a website. Well, if 200 people read them on your website and talk to 200, and that 200 talks to another 200, and that 200 talks to another 200, this is what happens. Or if they just talk about it in general conversation, say, this candidate said he is going to do this and he is going to do that, and he put it in writing. So I think that we need to put out information, and it has to be information that you can just say, well, not just somebody may have heard him say it. You need really to tell the people what you're going to do. And if you underestimate that, you are crazy, and you overestimate signs, because I will remember, CJ, I mention this every once in a while when we get to this subject. Ernie Ladera was the odds-on favorite to become the mayor of the city of Fall River. He was a congressional aide. He had a pretty big political machine, and he had a lot of money. And he ran a campaign. There were signs everywhere. Everywhere you turned, there was an Ernie Ladera sign on the buses, on the streets, everywhere. There were bumper stickers. They even had a jingle, and I still remember. And look, I'm not gonna, I was told
Ernie Ladera, a full-time mayor.
Yeah, good. I'm glad he'll be a full-time mayor. I'm glad you did it because, it was a jingle that they actually kind of sang, and I was told in school that if I sang, I would flunk. I had to lip sync because I can't carry a tune in a bucket. So I understand that's one of the things I am really bad at. I'm good at a lot of things, but I'm really bad at a lot of things. So, and singing is one of them. I cannot carry a tune in a bucket. But Ernie Ladera will be a full-time mayor, and he didn't make it through the primary, by the way. So, look, all these things don't take into consideration that you got to resonate with the people of Fall River, and signs don't resonate. Narratives do. See, even my dog agrees.
Well, I want to thank you all for watching. It seems like time flies even here. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Friday.